Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carol Cook, and I'm a health sciences librarian with the Neil John McLean Health Sciences Library. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Carolyn Monin, who will be helping me with answering questions, and Janice Linton, who is observing today and has been made co-host and may pop in with her feedback on some of the content. We wanted to acknowledge that we're located on the traditional lands and waters of the people known as the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, Oji-Cree, and Inuit, as well as the homeland of the Métis Nation. We recognize the colonial role of libraries. And as health information professionals engaging with the concepts of knowledge production, diffusion, and organization, we recognize that it's our responsibility to respect Indigenous ways of knowing. And with this statement, we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in the spirit of partnership, reconciliation, and collaboration. The slides for this presentation were developed by another colleague of ours, Christine Nielsen. The presentation itself is designed for a longer session, so I will be cutting it short in places. The most important thing for you to remember is that all of the materials I'm using today with Zotero can be accessed online using our Zotero workshop guide. And Carolyn will pop the link for that into our chat. Before we get going, I wanted to get a sense of where people are at with their experience with citation management software. So I'm going to launch a poll. So feel free to let me know and let us know what experience you do have with citation management software. And if you don't have any at all, please indicate that as well. I am going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So there are some people that have a little bit of experience with EndNote, Mendeley, and Papers. Papers, for those of you who might not be part of the Mac universe, is something that's designed specifically for Mac users. And there are some that have used others and some that have used Zotero and some that have had no experience. So for those of you that have a little bit of experience using citation management software, if you could just take a minute to pop into the chat the reasons why you were thinking of either switching to Zotero, or if you've used Zotero before, if you had any specific questions that you were hoping to get from this particular workshop, just pop them into the chat. You can either send them privately to Carolyn and myself, or you can send them to everyone. It's up to you. So someone's looking for a refresher on Zotero, so hopefully I will give you that and some tips on how to better use it, as I've never had training. Excellent. Well, this is perfect for you then. We will go over some of the basics. Someone's switched to Zotero from Mendeley recently. Excellent. I've heard a lot about people who are intending to do that. The ability to share access to references with a research assistant. Yes, the group sharing is really important, and I will be touching on that today. And someone else is new to grad studies, and it's free. Yes, Zotero is wonderful that way. Absolutely. Great. Thanks very much for adding that information in. I'm going to share a screen right now with you. So today we're going to talk about quite a bit and try and pack a lot into this particular hour. We're going to talk about Zotero itself. I'm going to touch a little bit on organization, different ways you can get material into Zotero, which is really the meat of Zotero, and duplicates, how to remove them, a little bit about information about how to insert citations into a paper and creating bibliographies, which is probably the biggest draw in Zotero. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get your records out of Zotero if you do decide to switch at some point in the future. So all reference managers will help you organize your citations and make it easier for you to put your citations into a bibliography and into your papers. One thing that makes Zotero different is the fact that it's an open source program, and that comes out of a nonprofit organization that's tied to academia instead of a corporation. So this has particular appeal in terms of its generalizability as a tool. Now, there's a few different parts to Zotero. There's a desktop application that you download to your main computer, but there's also an online storage element. So you can use your Zotero account to access your Zotero library from any computer with an internet connection. If you just want to use this today as an opportunity to kind of evaluate Zotero and whether or not you want to go into it in a deep dive, you can actually just use Zotero online rather than downloading the software. The online aspect also facilitates the group libraries that multiple people can access the same references. So this is also one of the appeals of Zotero. Now, like other free reference management software that's out there, you get a certain amount of storage for free. And in this case, with Zotero, it's 300 megabytes. Now, you and I both know that in today's age, that's not a heck of a lot. An individual can store up to about 300 megabytes of data in the cloud with Zotero for free. The number of PDFs that can accommodate is going to vary depending on the size of the PDFs. So if they have lots of embedded images, they use up more memory. Most of the PDFs I save are in kilobytes rather than megabytes. So whether 300 megabytes is enough for you is something that you need to gauge for yourself. Now, if you want to be able to store more than that, you have a couple of options. You can download this really great extension for Zotero called Zotfile. Zotfile. And this will allow you to store your PDF documents on a cloud storage system like Dropbox or iCloud or OneDrive, and just link to them from your Zotero library. And that means you're just calling on them as you need them, and it takes up less space. Another option is you can pay an annual fee, but it's not all that expensive. And as the products go that we are familiar with, EndNote, Mendeley, and Zotero, it's not super expensive for the different storage options. And there's also some lab storage subscriptions available. So if you are a part of a lab that pays for extra storage, that can work out well for you too. If you're going to use reference management software over the long term for different projects or assignments, you're going to accumulate a lot of different records. And you want to think about how to organize what's in Zotero library so it's easier to find what you need when you need it. When you see my Zotero, I have a very specific organizational style that I use across multiple platforms. I use it for my email. I use it for my for my Dropbox. I use it for all my cloud storage options so that I know exactly where to go for the things that I need. You do that with using folders and subfolders in Zotero. And these are called collections. So that's the thing that's a bit weird. If you're familiar with using EndNote or Mendeley, they call them folders. In Zotero, they call them collections, but it's essentially the same thing. So maybe you want to group things by an individual project, or the class you're taking, or topics. Subfolders within these folders are allowed and help make this particular system work for you. Everything is listed in something known as My Library. And it's important to know that you can assign a citation or a reference to more than one folder. So you don't have to download multiple records for the same thing or multiple citations for the exact same thing and put them into different folders. You can use the exact same one across. So this is what this looks like in Zotero. I'm going to stop my share here, and I'm going to share my screen for Zotero. So this is my Zotero. And here you will see that I've got a very specific, like I said, style of storage. I'm topic-based unless I'm working on a particular publication, and then I will name that publication. Something I recommend to people is if you are working on an article or paper, you might name a subfolder for that article or paper, and you might have the following possible subfolders or collections, subcollections. Every time I put a citation into my article folder, I add it to my to review. Once I've reviewed it, I remove it from my to review and I add it to one of these. Yes, I'm going to use, maybe I will, and definitely not. I also like to apply notes to these sorts of things so that I remember down the road. So adding a folder to Zotero is super easy. I'm going to do that here. All you have to do is if you go up to the top, you see this little folder icon right here. You can click on folder. So if you have Zotero open, you can click on folder and enter a name for a collection. Here, another way is I can do this and create a subfolder. So say, for example, for this Zotero seminar, I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to create a new subcollection. And I'll just name it Zotero Workshop. And all the things that I do today, I will fire in there. It's important to think about different naming conventions. So when you think about naming your folders and groups, you want to give things meaningful names that will be confused with something else. For example, you don't want to label like something like article or term paper. The odds are you're going to have more than one term paper or more than one article. So be specific about what you want. Likewise, if you're going to organize things by class, you might label collections with the course number, but you might forget what belongs to that course number. Essentially, what you have to do is worry about what works for you and try and establish something that works for you. Now, collections versus groups. Let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about collections versus groups. Now, with collections, like I said, they are simply folders. Groups are folders that are shared by multiple people online. So if I was to look at my Zotero, you will see down here at the very bottom of my library listing of collections, I have something called group libraries. And I've got a number of different ones that I created and tested out. So what you can do with group libraries is you can, again, add something to a group and create a group and share folders and PDF documents and citations with a specific group of people. Now, the people who access those folders have to have a Zotero account. And if you want to create a folder, you have to have a Zotero account to access and create groups. Still, these are all subject to, of course, the file storage limits. And I believe that if you're sharing something, it comes out of the group owner's storage allotment. And if you want to share PDF documents with a group of people, you have to make that group private. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to log myself into Zotero. And the reason why I'm going to do that is to show you how to set up a particular group. In Zotero, once I've logged myself in, I can click on Groups to create a group. It's very easy. Then you can create a new group. I'm going to name it Test Zotero Workshop. And instead of having it public, if I want to share PDF documents, choose private membership. So you have to specifically invite people to use your particular group. Okay. Didn't like my name, so like that. Okay, I'll do that one. It likes that one. It's showing me it likes that one. Okay. So it's private. Library reading, any group member, library editing, any group member, file editing, any group members. This allows you to annotate, co-annotate some of your PDFs. I'm going to hit Save Settings. The defaults are just fine for me. And then up here, this is where you can add members. Go into Member Settings, and I can send more invitations. So say, for example, I wanted to send something to Carolyn. I can invite her as a member, and she can connect and accept that group if I'd like. What this looks like in Zotero is now I've got, or I should have, here, I'm just gonna, up here, this is the all-important synchronization. There we go. And now that CCOOKE member group I created will show up here. I can take any of the citations from my library and I can drop them in here, and Carolyn can access them and use them if she accepts my invitation. So that's groups. Now, something else that you can do in Zotero is notes. You can make notes for yourself for later, and this is a really good place for you to record your thoughts and ideas about what an article brings to a particular topic, what you think is particularly interesting or noteworthy about the article, and what you might want to follow up on. You can attach multiple notes if you want to, and you can even format the text of the note like you would a Word document. So to do that, I'm going to I'll go into my inbox and I'll pick something. You can see off to the side here, this is information about the citation. And then if I click on notes, I can add in a note here, and I can explain this is the best book for note taking. Fix it a little bit, and then it will synchronize and connect. It will save it for me. And you notice here, attached to my particular citation, there is the note. Tags are something else that you can use, and you can create standardized tags for yourself. Now, you can, if you're importing something from a database, there may be tags already applied to different things. So you can see that there are some tags on other things that I have in here, but you can also add in your own tags. Some of my colleagues use this for I've read this or something else, or this is best for, or note taking. And you can add as many tags as is relevant to your particular topic. Now, as a reminder, all this stuff is on the hands-on guide for the Zotero workshop. And then we can also import. So I had a quick question in here on how to download from Zotero. In that Zotero workshop guide, if I click on it, gets me right here, and I can go into the setup process here. First, you need to create an account in Zotero. So click on that, create your Zotero account. Once you've created your account, Zotero will automatically prompt you to download onto your desktop. If you already have an account and you have a new computer and you need to, you can just click on Download Zotero Desktop and Browser Connectors, and that's really useful for you to use. The next thing you have to worry about is using Zotero to actually add information. So all reference management software allows you to import files from databases, and we're going to start there. Now, on the resources page, there is a link to a MEDLINE search that we'll use to download some articles. You don't have to do this. You can just follow along and see how I do it. Right here under adding stuff, this is again on the Zotero Researcher Workshop page. If you click on this link, it will automatically, and it will take just a tiny bit of time, open up and run a search in MEDLINE on how to write. Like I said, it takes just a little bit of time. Let it do its thing. And you can test this out again if you'd like. If I want to download these 45 results that I got into Zotero, this is the Ovid interface. I have to export things. Now, depending on the database that you're using, if you're using PubMed, if you're using EBSCOhost, or if you're using ProQuest, or another one of the databases at the University of Manitoba, most of them have a way for you to export information into a citation management software. You just have to figure out how to do it. Now, I'm going to show you this in Ovid, but what you're looking for is save, download, or export. One of those three things somewhere on the screen, results screen, for the databases that you're using. And for this, you may want to talk to a librarian, just if you can't find it, because there's always options. I'm going to select all, because I want to download all of my results, and I'm going to click export. And this is where, for some databases, it gets a little bit confusing. You have to select a particular format. The one that you want to use with all citation managers, it doesn't matter which, is RIS. This is a standard citation style format that all citation browsers or citation management software can actually use. What I do, and maybe Carolyn does this as well, maybe Janice does this as well, but I prefer to download just the complete reference if you have that option, rather than just maybe the citation and abstract or the citation and abstract and subject headings. I want everything I can get my hands on, because I don't know downstream what I need from that. If you are using the Ovid interface, you don't need two URLs here. You just really need the link to the external resolver. And don't select to download your search history, because it'll create a blank record in Zotero, and that can be a bit confusing. So if I hit export, you may not see this on the screen. It's going to prompt me to save it. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to call it MEDLINE. And it's saving it as MEDLINE RIS. Now, from there, if I want to get this into Zotero, it's actually pretty simple. I can go into the File menu, which you may not see on the screen, but it's at the very top, just above Zotero, and I can click Import. From that import, it will prompt me to say, where do I want to import from? And I want to import from a particular file. This is my RIS file. And then I'd hit continue. I'm going to select my desktop and MEDLINE RIS. And then I'm going to click open. Now from here, again, you will not see it on the screen in front of you, but it's prompting me to do a couple things. One, it's prompting me to place my imported collections and items into a new collection. What this does, it's actually quite ingenious. It will automatically create a folder based on what you used to name that RIS file, and then import everything into that particular folder. You can leave this checked on, which is the default. I'm going to turn it off and show you something else. And it also prompts me for file handling. What do I want Zotero to do with any associated files? So perhaps PDFs. And I'm telling it to just do the default, which is to copy files to the Zotero storage folder. I'm going to click continue, and it's going to import a bunch of things, and you'll see things flashing on my screen. Now, it's brought everything into my library. I obviously already have a library that exists. If I want to know where all my recently imported materials are, I can click on this, my unfiled items. And this will import everything. This will show me everything that hasn't been added to a file, folder, or collection in Zotero. So what I can do is I can then select everything. I'm just going to hit Control A on a PC. You probably do Command or Control A. And I'm going to add to a specific collection. Again, you might not see the pop-ups, and I'm going to add it to my Zotero workshop collection. Now it removes it from my unfiled items. And then if I go back into my teaching and into my Zotero workshop, all of those papers are now listed here, which is, I think, miraculous and very cool. In all honesty, though, that's not the best or even easiest way to get content into Zotero. I love using the Zotero connector with my browser. And I think this is probably the best way to use Zotero. And I'll show you what that looks like. So, for example, it's hard to differentiate the Zotero connector from other tools in my little toolbox up here, but this one here is the Zotero connector, and it's prompting me to select from something it sees on this page. Now here it has a folder shape, and what that means is it's prepared to download multiple citations from this page if I wanted to. I'm going to go back into the Zotero Researcher Workshop, and I'm not going to drag and drop. I'm going to use the Zotero connector here. I'm going to open up a folder, or a file. This is coming from the National Library of Medicine. It's got, because it's an open source from PubMed Central, I can also see that the PDF document is here. I can open up the PDF at this point, but I think Zotero does something way cooler if you're using the Zotero connector. Now, up here in the tiny, you'll see a paper. Now, I can click on this, and I can have it automatically import that paper into the Zotero workshop. And here, you can see its progress. Now, 1, it's brought in the citation. 2, it's brought in a link to PubMed Central, which is this open source database. And 3, it's actually brought in the PDF document automatically, and I don't really have to think about it. So now, if I want to look at Zotero and I go back in here, it should show up now in my unfiled items. It's not there. So this is something else with Zotero that you have to worry about. You have to worry about clicking on your, maybe I already have it in my database. There we go. Try again. Unfiled. Okay, so it's already sitting in there. Now, if I want to find that particular document, I'm just going to go back. It is Academic Writing by Kozak. Okay, I might need to select library. Kozak. There we go. Academic Writing to learn how to write. So again, here it's got the PDF document, it's got the PubMed Central link, and if I click on this, you see that it's selected the item type as a journal title, which is great. It's got the title, author, publication information, and so forth. Everything that I need to generate a citation. Here, I can also open up and begin annotating this particular document if I want to, from inside Zotero. So that's using the Zotero connector, and I love it. I use it quite a bit. Something else that you can do with Zotero is you can actually also drag and drop PDF documents. So say, for example, a lot of us have been doing a lot of research over a number of years. We have PDF folders after PDF folders after PDF folders. You can actually take those PDFs and you can drag them and drop them onto the desktop of Zotero. And you can then, Zotero will then capture the content. Now, I'm going to just download this particular article onto my desktop. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to open up my Zotero, and I'm going to drag and drop it on to Zotero so that you can, again, actually have to show you my desktop. Okay. I've been trying to avoid that. Sorry. Okay. So to get this to work, I'm going to find my desktop. There's that article. I'm going to find my Zotero. I want to drag and drop it into my library. So I'm going to kind of move things around a little bit. I'm going to click and drag it, and I'm going to drop it. Now, I already have a line open, and you saw that it started off with just the PDF file, and then it gathered what we call metadata. Okay. Now, by metadata, that's the information that we need to create a proper citation in Zotero. So this is the metadata it gathered from molecular cell, volume, issue, pagination. When you do that, when you're dragging and dropping PDF documents from your computer into Zotero, what you have to do is double check that metadata. There are a number of times where all of us have done this and had incomprehensible content added as metadata. And what you may find you have to do is you have to open up the PDF document, and you might end up having to go back and forth just to double check that you have the right metadata. So if I go back into there, I might just go back and forth, checking, making sure that the author's correct, that the title's correct, that the publication information is correct and complete, and so forth, so that you have all the information you need to actually bring content in as a citation. Any questions at the moment? Anything I can be helpful with?
Yes, I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, can you speak for a minute about the difference between having Zotero refer to the PDF files that might be stored in your computer versus uploading them onto the Zotero service?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the advantage. Thanks.
Okay, so what I have installed on my Zotero is a plugin called Zotfile, and okay, so what this looks like is it's a little plugin that you can get for Zotero. Carolyn popped that into the chat. Like I said, it's called Zotfile. And once you have it installed and you go through the installation information, you can go into your Zotero preferences or Zotero settings. I think that's what it is on a PC. And it's moving all over the place. Sorry. While I bring it back, I've got two screens. Okay, so with Zotfile, what it allows you to do, let's see if I can figure out where it is. And I think, is it under advanced files and folders? Yep, absolutely. So with Zotfile, I then end up having a little bit of extra information in here, and I can add in a base directory, and I can add in a default data directory. So the data is the citations. that I'm using with Zotero. So it's the proper Zotero database itself. Citations, folder structure, all that sort of thing is here. This linked attachment-based directory is where my folders are going to be, or sorry, where my PDFs are going to be. Now, for me, I had to do a little bit of fancy footwork. I've got a Mac to try and find out what the best path is for me to use for that. But this is in my iCloud, and it shows up in my iCloud here, and it is located in my Zotero PDFs, and I have mine organized by author. And if I want to, all I have to do is drill down, and these are all my Zotero PDFs, and I can open them up as well. And it makes my life much easier. So how that works is, you see here, I've got my PDF embedded in Zotero. This shows me that it's actually inside Zotero, and I can right mouse click, and I can manage this attachment. I can rename it because I don't like the name, and I can move it to my cloud and outside of the Zotero storage system. So I'm going to rename and move it. And now you'll see it's got the PDF, but it's also got this little link icon at the bottom of it. And what that does is it lets me know that I have linked this now, and the PDF document is now being stored in my cloud system. So I hope that helps explain that a little bit.
Yes, thank you. I think it's connected to other questions, which maybe you'll touch on later, which is about marking up and annotating, and how that if you're using a tablet versus doing it on a laptop, and where the files are stored and kept.
You need to book an appointment with me because
Perfect.
I've got so much to share.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Carolyn's giggling. She's like, don't get her started. Just seriously, don't get her started, because yeah, Carol is just a bit, yeah.
No, it's amazing. Carol, there are a few other questions in the chat. Do you have to double check the metadata when using the Zotero browser extension?
It depends on where you're coming from. So with Zotero, if you're like coming from something like the publisher's website, and the article or the PDF has been created in the last 10 years, I want to think is a really good kind of number. Publishers have been, for about the last 10 years, really diligent about getting the right metadata attached to their PDF documents. So if you're on a publisher's website, then you probably will have decent metadata. If you are taking it from anywhere else, you might have to check it. But routinely, before you publish, you need to look at each and every one of your citations in your reference list and make sure that your metadata is good just before you actually send it off for publication. So it's a good thing to check anyway, but typically, no, you don't if you're on a publisher site. Other questions?
The next one is, if you store files on your desktop, is there the same storage limit as with using Zotero online? Yes,
because Zotero doesn't care if you have it on your desktop or if you have it elsewhere. Where the storage is in the synchronization with the Zotero online. So in my Zotero, you saw me just constantly clicking on the green arrow. That's to sync my library up online. Now, you can not sync, and then you're not kind of using that. But the problem is that if you don't sync, you can't use the connector. And I think the connector is the true strength of Zotero. So yeah, you can do some fancy footwork around it and not use the syncing feature. But I think it's the syncing feature that really makes Zotero sing. And I think it would be a shame if you kind of just use that. Other questions?
How do you download the
connector? I've tried multiple times. Okay, great. So the Zotero connector, I've got Zotero connector on my Safari. I've got it on my Chrome. I've got it on my Firefox. I've got it on. I've got it everywhere. I like using Zotero. If you want to, you can go to that page that we have set up for the workshop. At the very top is a click for Zotero, for the Zotero connector. Now, what you do is access that page using the browser you want to add the connector to. Something else I've noticed, and if you are using Google Chrome, sometimes you need to actually enable that. So it's an extra step with Chrome and some of the browsers that you might actually just have to enable that connector. Now, I can show you that, but I want to make sure that I move on. So you might want to reach out to either Carolyn or myself or even Janice Linton and maybe have an appointment. And then if we do it online, then you can show us your screen and we can help walk you through that. That might make it easier. Other questions? Okay.
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, I'm quite new to everything that is being said. And while you're speaking, I have just tried to set it up on my computer. And it doesn't seem like I can upload a document.
Oh, okay. Well, in terms of adding in documents like I did, where I just dragged and dropped the PDF, make sure that you have your, you might have to like exit Zotero after that first time and then open it back up again. And the drag and drop, I've had experience with it. It's being a little bit fussy, and you have to get it right in the middle of that center panel of Zotero. You can't drag and drop it into like a folder. You have to drag and drop it into the center panel. And then it will capture it. I hope that makes sense. So maybe give that a shot, and then we can certainly talk.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now something else that Zotero does, especially if you're like Carolyn and I are in the health sciences, so we do everything by PMID, which is a PubMed identifier. If you have another identifier like the DOI that is kind of standard with a lot of journal articles, or an ISBN, which is the International Standard Book Number. You know, it's that 10 to 13 digit number that you find on the back of a book with a barcode. You can actually add this kind of content into Zotero as well. And I just wanted to demonstrate that because I think this is probably another one of the slick features of Zotero that I absolutely love. Where you do this is you can use this little, it's like a tool for a magic wand. And it tells you exactly what kinds of identifiers you can use. If you are in the sciences, you can also import arXiv IDs or ADS bibcodes if you have those as well. I'm going to just go back into the Zotero workshop page. And if you scroll down to where it says number 4 under adding stuff, you'll see a number of IDs that you can use. I'm going to grab the first one. I'm just going to copy and paste that into my Zotero. And I'm going to click on my little ISBN thing or on my little magic wand. I'm going to put in my DOI. What does it stand for? Document ordering information?
Digital Object Identifier.
Thank you. I knew Carolyn would. Okay. And then I can just add it. Now I'm going to click, I'm going to add it, and Zotero will automatically highlight what I just added. And it did something else pretty interesting as well. All I put in was the DOI. What did it capture? It captured the DOI and the full text article. So it went and hunted for it, which I think is pretty fantastic. Now, if I want, I can then add this just by dragging and dropping it into my Zotero workshop folder. Come on. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to right mouse click and I'm going to add to my Zotero workshop collection. So it shows up there. And now I'm going to go back into the library guide and I'm going to grab the ISBN, just again, so that you can see that process. And so the reason why I like this so much is I'm lazy. and I know that if I'm reading a book, I can flip it over, find the ISBN on the back, and I can just put this into my Zotero really easily. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to type in my ISBN. This can be 13 digits or 10 digits, whatever you have on the back of your book that you're looking at. And this one is how to write a grant application, and I'm going to try and drag that now into my Zotero workshop. It didn't like it. Grant application. Oh, now I have to find it. I'm going to add it to my collection for Zotero workshop. All right. So that is how you go about adding things using the magic wand icon. There's a variety of other ways that you can import and add in content. You can also do this manually in Zotero. So if you do find that you have something that you want to add in manually, you can click on this little green plus sign and you can specify, I have a book chapter I want to add in. And you can just type it in manually. That's a lot more labor intensive. So if it's a book chapter, this is where I get sneaky. I will add in the ISBN for a book like this. And then I will go in and I will change my item type from book to book section. And then I'll add in the chapter that I'm using and make sure that the author matches up and that I have correct information there. So I will go in and manipulate things quite a bit when I'm using Zotero.
Carol, we have a question. When you did the magic with the DOI or the ISBN, did it import the PDF of the publication or just the citation?
It imported both. And Zotero is really quite surprising to me this way. If there is an open source PDF available with something like that, with a DOI, it will capture it and it will bring it in automatically. And I think that's just fantastic. So it's quite lovely. If that didn't work for you, let me know, because I may have a setting that I might need to show you. So something else with Zotero, you can do find available PDF and library lookup. And this is the setting that I think I may have set that you may not, as someone who might be doing this new. And this is something that probably only works about 50% of the time, but it can work and work quite nicely. So how this happens is I can go into, let's see, my Zotero. And the reason why I need to show my screen is because of this, so that you can see my preferences. And I can go to, okay, is it general? Sorry, while I figure this out. Do you remember, Carolyn? I think it's in under, it's probably under advanced, isn't it?
I think it's advanced.
Yeah. Okay. So if I go into general under advanced, so it's right up at the top here. It's got the tools and the little screwdriver and the wrench. here it says open URL, which doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's what we use here in the library to connect you up to relevant content. So this is the URL that you would then put in. Now, it's actually on the library guide just below the adding stuff. If you scroll down a little bit further, you will see something that says search.lib. So once you see the search.lib, that entire thing is what you copy and then paste into your resolver, and it will try and connect you to that content. Now, how that works, I'm just going to slip into my library here, and I'm going to see if I can find something. Okay, so this one here, it's an older document. I'm going to see if I can encourage it to find a PDF document for this. So to do that, to utilize that service, I can right mouse click and, okay, doesn't have enough information. Okay, see if I can find something else. I'm looking for something that doesn't have a, let's see, okay. There we go. So the reason why it didn't work on the one above is it didn't figure it had enough sufficient information to locate the document. For this one, if I want to, I can click on Find Available PDF, and it's going to make an attempt. If you are, see, it found it. Excellent. And it's going to bring it in for me. If you want to, if you are importing everything from Mendeley and into Zotero, and maybe your PDFs didn't come across, what you can do is you can select all. So I can hit Command A, is it? Command A, there we go. And select everything. You can select all of your things, or you can click at the top in your library and click at the bottom. I don't really recommend doing this because, you know, your library could be quite big. And then hold down your Shift key and select everything. And then just find available. Now, I've got a lot of PDFs already in here, so it's not going to be, oh, here we go. I can click on Find Available PDFs, and it will just go line by line and try and match it up with available PDFs. Now, like I said, this usually only works about 50% of the time. So we have to be mindful of that. Now, I've only got just a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure that I show you how to cite. So here's a sample paper that I want to work with. My Zotero is now a plugin at the top. This should be automatically installed in your Word. Now, if I want to, I can add in my citations here just by clicking on Add Citation. I'm going to pick the American Medical Association style, which is a numbered style. And it's prompting me off the screen to pick something. So I'm going to pick my Elan, and I'm going to click Cite. Now, all you see here is this little number 1. All I have to do is do References, and then click Add Edit Bibliography, and there it is. Now, if I want to add in other content, all I have to do is just keep on adding in citations. So let's see. And so forth. And I can keep on going in and editing, and it will properly format everything in AMA style. If I want a different style, then I can go up to Document Preferences, pick a different style, like the APA, hit OK, and it automatically maps and adjusts things. So that's where the true power of Zotero is. Just going to stop my share. Acknowledging that we are at time, I will stay until all the questions are answered. But thank you very much for coming.